It is indeed a pleasure and, more importantly, an honor for me to introduce a person with whom I've grown to greatly admire and to respect, Brigadier General Robert L. Stevens, Jr. He is from the hills of West Virginia. I think they have clay or coal there too, sir. And he became a second lieutenant in 1962 in the 101st Airborne Division. He served for more than 30 years as an infantry officer, and he's special forces too, so you notice I sat to the side so that I could watch all around me, because I served in Vietnam with 5th Special Forces myself in '69, so I know what these guys are capable of. He has a tremendous amount of command time, and throughout my period of time that I've known him, he's always been a people person, very precise in his judgment, and very caring about the people around him. He's commanded the Joint United States Military Advisory Group in Bangkok, Thailand, Joint Armed Forces Inaugural Committee for President Clinton, and various other significant assignments that are I'll let him cover those things. He has a number of awards that are significant, such as the Distinguished Service Medal, the Defense Department Superior Service Medal, 2 awards, Legion of Merit, 2 awards, the Bronze Star with V device, and 2 oak leaf clusters. He has the Purple Heart. He has the Air Medal with the V device and 4 oak leaf clusters. Needless to say, General Stevens liked to go high. He jumps out of airplanes. So he's always had high goals. I'm going to cut through some of this because he can spend more time with you today. But what I would like to impress is that he has a Master of Science degree in education from Alfred University. He is a graduate of the National War College, the Army Command and General Staff College, and the Defense Language Institute. He has also completed Harvard University's Senior Management course in Government, Duke's University Strategic Leadership course, and the prestigious course of study at the Center for Creative Leadership. Recently, he was awarded the Honorary Doctorate of Humanities. So he's not only a general, but he's a doctor now. And he is married to the former Dolores Olivia Bennett. He has a son and 2 daughters, and his daughter recently retired as a colonel in the legal field. Is that correct? Yeah. But to cut all this short, it is a distinct honor to have shared time with General Stevens and to get to know him personally. We've traveled and cracked a lot of jokes together, and I treasure this opportunity for you to get to know him, and I encourage you to consider asking him any questions after he's completed his presentation. He has a book entitled When in Charge, Take Charge. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you, and to you all who have just been honored, congratulations. Brigadier General Robert L. Stevens, Jr.
I'm always amazed when I hear myself being introduced. Sometimes you say to yourself, it's better to be seen than to be viewed, because it sounds like they're reading your obituary. Especially when Percy does it. To these young folks who just received these scholarships or were nominated or whatever you were for them, good luck to you. My wife, that Percy just mentioned, her name is Dolores Olivia. She is a high school classmate of mine. I met her in 7th grade. I identified her right then, and I said, that's going to be it. So we started dating in the 10th grade, and our senior year, when I was in high school, I'm a lot older than most of the people in this room. That's probably not true, but it sounds good. When I was in high school, we had something called Senior Day. And on Senior Day, the seniors took over the school. I was the only guy in school with a car. So they made me the principal. Olivia could type. So I selected her to be my secretary, because that's the only way women got in the front office in those days, ladies. You had to be a secretary. So she was in with me in the principal's office, and there's some debate. We've been married 51 years. She wins most of the arguments. Let me back up. She wins them all. I don't know whether I said or she said, take a letter, so she could type. So she typed a letter to West Virginia State College and Bluefield State College, and I signed it as the acting principal. Hell, I was the acting principal. And so we both got full scholarships. We both got full scholarships to West Virginia State College. And Dr. Grace I. Woodson was the scholarship chairman. When I hit that campus, she had a message for me to come and see her. And the first thing she did was put me on that scholarship committee. And over the next 4 years, I got 3 scholarships for 3 more kids out of my high school. I say all that to say that you have to kind of figure out where it is you want to go and what you want to do. I'm a coalfield kid. My dad was a coal miner. Olivia's dad was a coal miner. And we wanted to go to college. We didn't know how we were going to get there. We just knew we wanted to go. I'm reminded of a great philosopher, a great American philosopher by the name of Yogi Berra, who said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace. And so I ended up at West Virginia State College and fell in love with ROTC. And all of a sudden, I had found something that I really wanted to do. And by the time I was a senior, I was a cadet colonel of the largest corps of cadets in the history of West Virginia State College, 540 men. We didn't have any women those days. I was commissioned a second lieutenant of infantry in the regular Army, as distinguished from the U.S. Army Reserve. You only had a few regular commissions. That year there were about 512 in the infantry, because we all went to Fort Benning at the same time. And we went to airborne school first. Some guys failed when they got in the 34-foot tower. They go, oh my God, it's high. Well, and couldn't jump out of the 34-foot tower. If you can't get out of the tower, you sure as hell ain't gonna get out of an airplane. So I made it through jump school and through the basic course and went up to 101st and spent 2 years in the 101st Airborne Division. Toward the end of that, I had a call from a Colonel Llewellyn, infantry branch, Building A, Washington, D.C. Some of you may know about some of that. Llewellyn said to me, when you signed up at Fort Benning, you signed up to go to Special Forces School, and we're now wanting to know if you still want to do that. That was 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. They found me. And he said, if you do, you have a choice. You can go to Batos, Germany, to the 10th Special Forces, or Panama to the 8th Special Forces Group. I said, I need to consult my mother. I was just trying to stall for some time. My head was in a spin. So I went home and talked to my wife, and I said, I need to call her. She goes, call your mother? Why do you want to call your mother? We're going. It's okay. So I signed up for Batos, Germany, and went to Panama. The other great quote from Yogi Berra, that great American philosopher, is when you come to a fork in the road, take it. So I ended up going to Panama, serving in the 8th Special Forces Group. Got good at being a departure airfield control officer. I'm pretty good at poetry. I had majored in English in college. And so I could kind of make my DACO briefing poetic. And I can't say some of the things I said because they're ladies present. But I got pretty good at departure airfield control officer stuff. And I worked at the airborne school in Panama. I worked in the jungle school. I ended up being commandant of the NCO Academy for a short period of time. Because in Special Forces, you didn't have much to do if you weren't in Vietnam, and so they made you SD. That's special duty. So I did a lot of special duty stuff. And the volunteer form at that time was a 1049. Y'all know about it. Form 1040, DA Form 1049. I signed to Vietnam. I came home and told my wife, I put in a 1049 today to go to Vietnam. She goes, are you crazy? You did what? So I say in the book, I was in Panama, fat, dumb, and happy, and that's kind of a Vietnam term. Fat, dumb, and happy, and had a brain cramp, and signed up for Vietnam. And I ended up leaving Panama in 1966 and went to Vietnam. Arrived at the G1's office, who was a Major Bean, and he said, what do you want to do? Well, I was a pretty seasoned captain by then. I had about 2 or 3 years in grade, so yeah, I was pretty good. I said, I want company. We don't have any companies, but if you wait a minute, one will come open. So he sent me up to see Joe Wozniak, who was Lieutenant Colonel at the time. Some of you may know Colonel Wozniak. Joe Wozniak was sitting there in a tent. We were at, not An Khe, we were on the Bong Son Plains. The headquarters for the 1st Cavalry Division was in An Khe. And the forward CP, forward command post, was up in a place called Bong Son Plains. General Toston, 3-star, when he retired, was the division commander. So Wozniak said, what is it you want? I said, I want a company. I want to kill something. I literally kind of said it that way. I was pretty young, fiery. I said, you see these cross rifles? I don't want to be on no staff. Didn't say it quite that docile. He said, behind this staff star are cross rifles. I'm going to get a battalion. And if you do a good job for me, I'm going to give you a company. Now, I was a pretty brash, smart-ass guy, but I wasn't a dummy. I knew Wozniak was West Point class of 1966 or something like that, or 56, or one of them years, and he was going to get a battalion. Because those West Point guys, it's West Point Protective Association, WPPA. Some of you may be in here. That's it. They take care of each other. And I knew Wozniak was going to get a battalion. So I signed on with Wozniak. Well, he didn't deliver right quick. Roscoe Robinson, who was class of 56, African-American guy, got a battalion. And he commanded the 5th and the 7th. Called him White Cloud. That was his call sign. He came back one day and he said, I'm going to give you a company. Wozniak heard that, and he beat White Cloud to it and gave me a company the next day. I didn't care. I just wanted a company. So Wozniak gave me a company. I was given a talk to, I want to say a counterpart organization, but now that I met you guys, it's probably not counterpart. We have a Vietnam Veterans Association in Stockbridge, Virginia, and I'm a member there. And I gave a talk one day about my Vietnam experiences there. And as I was giving that talk, all of the emotion that I had experienced that had never come out during my Vietnam experience happened that day. Well, to make a long story short, Wasiat gave me a company, and I, in my preparation for that particular speech, found out that I commanded a company in two of the largest operations in the Vietnam War. Pegasus, Operation Pegasus, was the largest air armada ever assembled in the Vietnam War. And we had every helicopter in the world was up in the air, and we went north. I was a company commander during that period. It was called the Liberation of Quezon. About a month later, we went into the Ashar Valley. Whoa! I was a company commander going to the Ashar Valley, and I remember sitting on a helicopter with 37 millimeter flak going on all around you, scared to death. And guys sitting in there, and they were all frozen, and I thought, I got to liven this thing up. Give me that damn camera here. And I started taking pictures, and everybody kind of smiled. But I went to the Ashar Valley as a company commander, and I got hit in the Ashar Valley. I got hit about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I think I described it pretty well. I was hit by a sniper. I had my coffee, my C-ration coffee, and my cookies. Remember, we used to have those cookies. They were brown on one side and lighter on the other side, and they had cream in the middle. The cream was so damn hard you could hardly do it. But I had that, and I had it spread out, and evidently the sniper identified me some way, and he hit me in the upper thigh. It's $1 million wound, folks. I collect a little check for it now. but I got hit, and I left my company to First Lieutenant Douglas Fournette. Lieutenant Douglas Fournette, in the next 6 or 7 hours, earned a Congressional Medal of Honor. He gave his life saving his platoon. 3 nights ago, and Percy does this to me all the time. I visit his office, and he says, need you to speak at so-and-so and so, and put it on your calendar. I'll get the information to you. Well, it was about 4 months ago. He said, mark the 4th of June to speak to the Vietnam Veterans Business Association. I'll get the information to you. And this is the honest God's truth. This past Friday, I got an email from him that said, I need your bio sketch. He still didn't tell me who the hell you were or where you were. Didn't tell me any of it. And so I said, okay. I sent him the bio sketch. I was up in West Virginia. My wife's parents, both deceased in about 111 days apart. They were 96 and 90 respectively. So, it wasn't as tragic as I make it sound, but you're never prepared for death. But where they lived in West Virginia, you cannot get internet, and your cell phone won't work. It's a great place to be, man. So I came out of there and went to Tazewell, Virginia, and pulled out my little device here, and there Percy's email was. Send him a bio sketch for this speaking engagement. And so I also say in this book, when I was a senior in college, I had to take comprehensive exams in English, education, and social studies. I passed them all except English. And so I had to go back to summer school and retake that comprehensive exam. When I got to airborne school, there were 2 of us from West Virginia State, me and Billy Washington, who had gotten Regular Army commissions. And so Billy was lagging behind airborne school, and I went back to help him. They flunked us both. And so I said I say in here, I, since that time, have never been unprepared again. I also haven't helped anybody in the damn run since then either. You can't keep up, you're a problem. Okay? So I'm downstairs in my little office down there. Well, it ain't so little, it's messy, but and I'm trying to get something together to say to this group that would be interesting, that you would remember, and that I don't know. And I put in the computer B Company 1-7 Cavalry, and a website came up that I'd never seen before. Those guys have put together a website with Lieutenant Douglas Fournette as the centerpiece, and they have a photograph in there of me and Fournette. I don't have words to describe the emotion that I had when I saw that. So, I commanded a company in Vietnam. Let me tell you about my first firefight. I was a captain with about 3 years in grade, and I took that company. I think I was the 6th company commander in 6 months. That may or may not be true. Somebody told me that. I haven't researched it. But you didn't stay a company commander very long. In fact, if you were a lieutenant, you had about 6 minutes. Joe Wozniak said to me, "Steve, I'm going to give you a couple of weeks to get these guys in shape." Okay. Next afternoon, he called me and said, "Come to headquarters. Send him a helicopter." I jumped on the helicopter, go to his headquarters, and said, "Tomorrow I want you to take this objective, big round circle around a hilltop." I said, "I thought you told me I was going to hit." He said, "Well, I know what I told you, but we got to go." So I put them together, and we get on helicopters, and we start charging in. You know, you got your gaggle, you're in your helicopter, you're having fun, and they're hanging off the side with a foot hanging out in the air, and you land, and you get your perimeter set up, and you got the artillery going, and you got the gunships above going counterclockwise, and the others going clockwise. I thought I was in a movie, and I was the center actor. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And so we start up a hill, and the lieutenant gets killed. 10 seconds later, they said his RTO got killed. Another 10 seconds says platoon sergeants were killed. And I take off to go forward, and my RTO, and I don't know his name except for Red. Red tackled me. He said, "Where in the hell are you going, Six?" I said, "I'm going to go up here and find out what's going on." He said, "No, you're not. Because if you go, I got to go." And I'm not going. That's one of the greatest lessons I ever had in my life. He tackled me and said, "You're going up there. Let me call and find out what's going on up there." And so I say all that to say I had 3 years in grade, and I was pretty tough. I was ex-SF, and I'd done a mission in Dominican Republic. My records don't show that I ever was there. I thought I was pretty tough, but Red taught me a lesson. You don't need to go forward. Call up there and find out. And so I went through that period and went to the hospital after I was wounded in the Ashar Valley. I came back, and they said, "We saved your company for you." I said, "The hell you did." I know better now. So I didn't take that company, but apparently I was proficient enough. They gave me another company. They gave me a headquarters company. So in my first tour in Vietnam, I commanded 2 companies. I commanded an infantry company and a headquarters company. And boy, that was fun. We had the brigade executive officer. It was a brigade headquarters company. The brigade executive officer was named Johnson, and he was a big, tall guy that always gave people duties. And every morning, about 6:30, when I'd go into that mess area, he'd have something for me to do. After about 2 weeks, I figured him out. And so I'd hit that area about 6:30. I'd say, "Colonel, I got something for you, sir." And he would avoid me like the plague. So about midway, about 2 or 3 months into that, I came home and spent some time in the 101st Airborne Division again, this time. Pretty good time there. Spent about 3.5 years and left there and went to the Pentagon. A lot in here about the Pentagon. People say, "I enjoy your book, but I don't understand that Pentagon part." Yeah, I was there for 3 tours and I don't understand it yet. That's a real nice place. I saw Ron in here. He could tell you a lot about it. I was in the basement. I worked for J.D. Smith down in the Army Operations Center. Schwarzkopf was the we called it Des Ops. I guess it's called G3 now. You got to really be a trooper to work in the basement because you can't find your way around. It's not marked, or it wasn't then. Maybe now. It was tough working in the basement of the Pentagon. After that, I went back to Panama. I commanded the 193rd Brigade in Panama. I am the guy who took the first incursion into Bolivia to ferret out drugs. That does show in my record, I'm proud to say, and that probably got me nominated for a star, and I pinned it on, and I went back in the Pentagon in the basement, and ended up as an assistant division commander in the 9th Division. Left there and I went to Thailand, where I commanded the Joint Military Advisory Group. I think they called us JUSMAG, in Bangkok, Thailand, where I met Ralph Wetterhorn, and came out of there. Yep. Y'all remember when a cell phone was about that long and looked like a brick, and you had to carry it in a satchel? Well, I was standing in my front yard in Sukhumvit 33, downtown Bangkok. So if you ever been, you know where I'm talking about if you've ever been to Bangkok. Sukhumvit's the main street. And I was talking to Major General Billy Streeter, who was commander of MDW, and he said, "We'd like you to be the director of the inauguration committee, this next inauguration." Okay. He said, "What can we do for you?" I said, "I want to live on Fort Myer." See, I was streetwise. That would have been my 3rd tour in Washington. You don't want to drive the traffic in Washington. So I said, "I want to live on Fort Myer." So he said, "Okay, I'll make that happen." So I lived on Fort Myer, and I remember we were getting together, getting ready for the inauguration, and Bill Clinton won the nomination, and Ron Brown said to me, "George Bush sent you over here to screw up Bill Clinton's inauguration." Man, I got mad. Did I get mad? So Ron Brown and I had it out. And after that, we were pretty good friends. But we did the inauguration for Bill Clinton's first inauguration. And after that, they said, "Would you like to go back to work in the Joint Chiefs of Staff for Colin Powell?" I said, "Doing what?" "A watch officer." "No." No. So, wasn't anything for me to do. And so they called me and they said, "Would you be ready to leave the service on the 1st of August?" I said, this is April Fool's Day. I was talking to a General Reimer. If he started off by saying, hey, Bob, nobody calls me Bob. So to say the least, I was, ladies, I use this word, I was pissed off. And I said, what if I leave today? And so about 30 days after that, actually 60 days after that, I participated in the retirement ceremony at Fort Myer, and I retired. What I didn't tell General Reimer is about 2 months prior to that, I talked to Governor Caperton in West Virginia. And Governor Caperton had said to me, I have 2 jobs. Which one do you want? Director of Communications or Director of Personnel? So when Reimer's talking to me, I ain't listening. Already had a job in West by God, Virginia. Okay? And so I went back and I was Caperton's executive officer, personnel officer for 4 years. And the parties changed. I guess that tells you what I am. The parties changed and I didn't want to work for the other guy. So I left West Virginia and came to Georgia. I think I've been talking about 20 minutes. I'll take questions from you. And unlike what Percy says, I will answer questions on almost anything you ask. There are certain things I won't tell you the answers to. Okay? So, I have some time for questions. They told me I did. Yes, sir.
When did you leave the Cav?
The question was, when did I leave the Cav? I left the Cav in 1968. It would have been July 1968. I got hit on the 4th of May, 1968. And so I would have left in July of 68.
If you could do one thing differently, what would it be?
Say it again.
If you could do one thing differently, what would it be?
You know, my immediate answer is to tell you I wouldn't do anything differently. But you always can do things better. If I could do something different in my life, it would be to acquire as much education as I possibly could as early as I possibly could. I have a pretty good education background. I just retired from Clayton State University as Vice President for External Relations. And I was in charge of the website, communications, and a lot. I mean, I'm a pretty bright guy. But I still don't think I have enough education. So if I could do one thing, I would study more and I'd pay more attention to my books. Yes, sir.
You had a long career in the military. How would you compare with the military service, the quality of our service in the early days when it was draft versus what you see today with the all-volunteer? How would you compare the differences?
I'm not quite old enough to speak extensively about draft. There were some draft guys around when I came in. In fact, this may amuse you. The first sergeant would get a call, and it'd be the personnel guys. And they would say, we got 3 guys coming. And the first sergeant would say, number 1 or number 2? If you were white, you were number 1. If you were 2, you were black. Okay? So we had some draftees in those days. I don't know the military now. My daughter, class of '86, West Point, just retired as a full colonel. She was the woman doing the JAG business in Kuwait and Iraq and Afghanistan up until July last year for about a two and a half year period. I'm very proud of her, you can probably tell. She would tell you that the military that she grew up in, that I talked about to her, is a lot different. I think it's a lot different. I think we were more disciplined. I think we were required to be more disciplined. One of the greatest fears I ever had in my life was getting lost with my platoon, and I did a lot of times, guys. I lost a whole damn brigade one night at Fort Irwin, California. It's called Camp Irwin in those days. We were in a night movement, and I was in the lead truck and fell asleep. I lost the whole brigade. I didn't tell that story for like 20 years. You can't get lost now. Everybody's got GPS. You can't get lost. So there's a lot of difference. I think we were more disciplined. But I'll be 73 in September, so you know all old guys think that our day was better. I still love them all. I love soldiers like, I mean, everybody in this room knows what a sacrifice to join and put your life at risk. You know, I spent all my time in the infantry. We were riding up here and we were talking about my shoulders ache, my elbows ache, my knees ache. I got an artificial hip. It's all from sleeping on the damn ground most of my life and not having an air mattress that was functional and all that kind of stuff. Even you guys who were logisticians and communications guys, I mean, we still appreciate your service too. But those guys of us who are infantry, I mean, we really put up with a lot of stuff out there on the ground, night after night after night. When I was a lieutenant, I spent a night with an artillery unit, and when they brought out the sheets and blankets and pillowcases, I went, oh my God. So I left the tent. I wouldn't sleep there.
You should have seen the aviators.
I probably didn't give you a good answer to that question. I just don't know about today's Army. Yes, sir.
How do you try to relate to some of the younger folks that you run into that aren't quite as motivated as you were when you were a young soldier?
I don't deal with it very well. As a matter of fact, I got to get out of here because I got an appointment at 3:30 for a job interview. I'm a class, an A-type personality, and if you're an A-, I probably don't deal with you very well. So, to answer your question, I don't understand why a person would decide to do something and then decide to half do it. If you don't want to do something, then don't sign up. Pure and simple. Being self-motivated is probably one of the greatest callings that all of us have. And so if you don't want to do something, just do something else. That sounds almost like something that the greatest philosopher would say, Yogi Berra. But I don't deal with folks who are not highly motivated. When I started to prepare, I got up this morning about 5:30 because I didn't know what I was going to say to y'all. And so I put together a speech for today, about 5:30 this morning, because I didn't want to get up and make a fool out of myself and waste your time. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't understand people who are not motivated. I just don't understand it. I have 3 children. I have a son who has my name. I'll never do that again. He just turned 50. He lives in Tacoma, Washington. He flunked out of the prep school and ended up graduating from West Virginia State College. And I think he got to first lieutenant in the Army. He feeds his family. I have a daughter who's a retired colonel. She has a doctorate of jurisprudence. I have a daughter who has a master's from Columbia in public affairs, and she is some kind of executive at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Somebody said to me, "How'd you get your kids?" Hey, they didn't have a choice. They knew what the expectations were. All three are college graduates. Do not tell me you can't do it. You can do it. It may take you a little longer, it takes another person, but you can still do it. We have one more? Well, thank you all for the opportunity to come. Thank you very much.
General, that was an incredible presentation. You are close, but this is the official tie of the Atlanta Vietnam Veterans Business Association. As the box says, made exclusively for AVVBA.
This came from Ben Silver, so you know I didn't say
This came from Patrick of Atlanta. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.